So back in 2020, I, Steven Shinder, started a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing the latest films. However, it got broadcast into an alternate universe where those films got delayed and came out differently from how I was describing them. Because of how me and my guests had been describing the films, people in that other universe were saying that this was all an improvised comedy podcast, which, listening back, I can totally get why they believe that. A lot of weird stuff happened in that first year, and I even met my other self from that other universe, who pops in from time to time, for better or worse. And now, in the year 2023, this podcast continues, still recapping and reviewing movies and sometimes some other things that got delayed or cancelled in that other universe. A new episode Saturdays every other week, unless I decide otherwise for some special reason or whatever. You are listening to Delayed Replay, Season 4.
Hi, this is Steven Shinder from that other universe where movies got delayed. It is May 16th, 2023, as I'm recording this, so recording on the actual third anniversary of Delayed Replay. And since the episode this will be on is on Super Mario Brothers 2, I figured I might say a non-spoiler review of the version of the animated Super Mario Brothers movie that came out just a month ago, or a month and a half ago in my universe. So, uh, still somewhat recent. I think it just got released on home video, maybe today or this week or something. But um, yeah, overall, I loved it. It's in my top three favorite 2023 movies so far. So it's behind Guardians and Scream 6. Almost forgot the number of it for a moment. So it's in third place for me. It's a 9 out of 10. Um, Spaghetti mushrooms, I guess. And it just felt fun. It felt like the games. It made me want to play them again. You forget really quickly that Chris Pratt is voicing Mario. The one that really took me some getting used to was Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong because I'm so used to the 90s Donkey Kong Country TV show where he sounds more like a Ninja Turtle. So I've heard other people say they thought Seth Rogen sounded good for Donkey Kong, but I guess it's that's just all me for being exposed to the old TV show first. Um, and I loved the whole. They start off by leaning on the brothers' relationship. To Mario and Luigi. Although I do think they kind of forget the relationship in the middle part of the movie and focus on other things. But they do bring it back by the end, and it's so satisfying the way they go about it. Peach and Toad were great. Jack Black was really great as Bowser. The songs, the music, the song that he sings, very iconic. You forget that it's Jack Black. He just slips into the character very well, and the animation, it's just gorgeous overall. I like it's weird that it's been so long for us to get a 3D animated Mario movie. But then again, if one had been released in the 90s or even like early 2000s, it might not have looked very good. With Illumination, they did a great job bringing that world to life, and I honestly think this is Illumination's best film that they've done. I'm sure to some that'll sound like valedictorian of summer school, but I did like the first couple Despicable Me movies. The first two, the Lorax, the Grinch. I enjoyed those. Um, there might be the Sing movies are decent, I guess. So Yeah, I guess there's not that much competition, but yeah, I feel like this is Illumination's best film. Um, I loved the care that was taken into it. There were some Easter eggs here and there. There are definitely some moments that I think people would call fan service, but I'd argue that they don't feel too fan servicey because you can't really show the world of the Super Mario Brothers without showing all the fan servicey stuff that they show. So it felt organic to me. So yeah, it was such a great year for movies based on games. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves would probably be like right behind Super Mario Brothers, maybe in fourth place or fifth place. I'd have to look at my list again. Just one sec. But yeah, D&D really felt like you could imagine the players playing the game as the plot played out in the film, and just when they're rolling ones or when they're rolling 20s or who's an NPC. So yeah, very happy about that and the Super Mario Brothers movie. The 1993 one, probably the same opinion as everyone else. It's weird and so bad it's good. I actually bought the DVD as a gift for my friend a couple days ago, recently, and he looked at the back and saw the pictures of the Goombas, and he's like, "Are these like some Bowser type characters or some Koopa Troopas?" I can't remember what he said, but basically, like, are these kind of like Bowser lizard type characters? And I was like, those are Goombas. And when I said that, he was like, we're definitely watching this. So very excited for that. And yeah, so again, happy 3 years of delayed replay. And without further delay, have a good day. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. And sometimes we review sequels that came out in our universe or another universe in this case. We'll explain that in a moment. But I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder. And joining me at this moment is a friend from across the pond, the good old UK. It is Max. So how's it going?
Hey, Steven, it's going good. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's great to have you on. We're talking about Super Mario Brothers 2, which came out in another universe which we discovered. So there was like this portal and we met our other selves and they showed us like the sequel to the 93 movie, which apparently is well liked over there because over there they evolved from dinosaurs, and so I guess it resonated more. So
Yeah.
so before they describe the plot, I think like you and I should like sort of talk about our history with Mario and like the first movie. Well, I described my history in the uh animated Super Mario Brothers movie episode. So what's your history with the Mario franchise in general?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess it's not like too dissimilar from most people. I played the games when I was a kid. Mostly like no, the ones I have the one I have the fondest memory of is Galaxy 2, playing that on the Wii. Um I don't think I ever played the first one. I definitely remember Galaxy 2. Some of the new Super Mario Brothers games, which are no longer very new, must have been, over a decade ago now. Yeah, I don't know. I was pretty casual about Mario. It's never my favorite Nintendo property, but oh, well, of course, Mario Kart. Love Mario Kart. That's a couldn't go without that. Mario Kart
Yeah,
Wii. I
that's
remember playing that obsessively.
yeah, that's a classic party game right there.
Right. were you the kind of similar? You're a little bit older than me, Stephen. Well, I'm curious to hear what your context for it is.
Yeah, so I remember when I was a kid, it was mostly through my older brother because he had a Game Boy and he had well, I think it was Super Mario Land, so he had that, and for a while I couldn't get past like the beginning or something, but eventually I got to the end like after a few years or something. Um,
Damn.
and he had Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. So played that in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then when we moved in with our cousins, they had Super Mario Kart 64, and that was even more fun, and seeing it in like three dimensions. And I think at some point I saw or played a little bit of Mario 64 when I was at some place, like I feel like it was like somewhere I was being babysat as a kid or something. And
Right.
just over the years, Mario Kart on the DS and some party games. Like I played a Mario Party game with roommates when I was in college, and um, just I think my friend Marco put it best when he was on here, which is that Mario is kind of like the Mickey Mouse of video games. It's sort
Oh,
of,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, something everyone encounters. He even has like the white gloves and the red. Um, and I don't know if people can hear in the background, but I'm actually like dog sitting my roommate's dog. Her name is Peaches, so that's kind of cool. So
Okay.
you might hear her in the background,
Yeah,
but
I didn't I haven't heard anything so far, but
okay.
yeah, maybe we'll get a little cameo there. No, that's a really good way of putting it because I do feel like it'd be hard to find like I don't know someone in their 20s or younger that doesn't or hasn't had an encounter with Mario at some point. Like I think we've all played at least one game or even just kind of I don't know, sat behind someone playing a Mario game at some point.
Yeah,
Really, truly is a universal character.
much like how in Mario Kart, one of the characters might sit behind the other character in the cart, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like a backseat driver.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about like someone in their 20s has to have played because my other self from that universe where the animated movie like just came out like a month ago, he says he went with his roommate and her little brother who and her younger sister as well. Like her little brother is like almost 10 years old, and I asked, and my other self asked him, so have you played any of the Mario games before seeing this? And he's like, no. And I was like kind of surprised that he hadn't, because I see him play games on his phone and
Right.
stuff sometimes. But yeah, it's kind of surprising to like hear about anyone living in the States at least who hasn't played Mario, if even though they've played like other games, if that makes sense.
But I'm sure also he'd heard of Mario. Like it wasn't like an
Oh
experience
yeah,
going in
for sure.
like, it's something that everybody like if you haven't played it, you've encountered it. There's no escape from again like Mickey Mouse. It's like I don't
Making
think I've
Mario sound
I
sinister.
don't know if I've seen any necessarily Mickey Mouse like films or shows necessarily, but
Mm,
I've definitely I know who the character is. I've encountered the character enough to know exactly um, what that character is and what that character is meant to be. So I can understand that like you might not have played a Mario game, but you definitely have a sense that he's a plumber in a red suit and he's got the big mustache and he's
yeah,
vaguely Italian.
yeah. I mean, talk about making a job like that look glamorous. Like, yeah, as a plumber, you get to fight all these like giant plants and these huge reptile people.
Yeah, definitely.
Get all these giant golden coins.
Making all the money.
Yeah. So I guess we should talk about our experiences with the first live action movie. So when this episode comes out, it'll actually be around the 30th anniversary of that film.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, so I've talked before about how me and my older brother, when we were kids in the late 90s, early 2000s, we'd rented the live action film, and I didn't realize back then how bad it was, but I did get the sense that it was weird, especially when like Yoshi didn't have like his iconic vibrant green look, but I still
Yeah.
think he looked pretty good for a dinosaur of that year, the year Jurassic
Yeah.
Park came
Same,
out.
yeah, exactly. Same year as Jurassic Park, 1993. I don't know, there's something very like slimy and weird
Yeah.
and disgusting about the representation of Yoshi in the film.
Yeah,
It's very bizarre.
and when Daisy's dad is like a mushroom thing and like really slimy, it's like there's so much slime in this movie.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So about 3 years ago when we watched it like through the crossover with sci-fi and horror sock and video game sock
Yeah, yeah. I
over at
think
Sussex. Was that your first time?
that was my first time watching it, and I'm also realizing I think that was the first time I spoke to you, Stephen.
Oh
I,
yeah, it
I think
definitely
that would have
was.
been because that would have been the first time um, I went to any of the sci-fi society events. So I think yeah, that must have been the first time we interacted.
Yeah, so this
Um,
this film has a special place in our hearts for that reason.
special place, yeah, for sure, yeah. Introduced me to Steven. But yeah, I remember having a great time watching it. Um, especially, I think it's one of those films that you kind of need to be in a room full of people to enjoy, just because there is such a like like you were saying, it's just so bizarre. It's such a strange experience that I think rewatching it by myself, it's kind of like it's just sheer confusion the whole way through, and you don't really have
Yeah.
anyone to validate you on the weirdness of it. It opens up with the whole thing about reptiles, and right from the get go, it's like this. Hang on,
Yeah, right
if
from the
they hadn't just done the
get-go, you might say.
right from the get go, yeah. Um, if they hadn't just played the like Super Mario motif, like you would have no idea that that's what you're going into. Like I would have thought, have I got the wrong file here? Am I in the wrong screening?
Yeah, that's a good point because when we watched it 2 years ago, like there were some things that I'd completely forgotten. And one of them was that intro where it begins looking like the game at 65 million years ago,
Yeah.
and shows a meteor that causes the two dimensions, one where people evolved from dinosaurs, and then it time jumps to like 1973 or whatever, and
Yeah.
shows Daisy as a baby, and I'm like, okay, I remember this part. And then 20 years later, you see the brothers played by Bob Hoskins and Ray Lugazamo, and then you eventually see Dino Hatton, and like I remember as a kid thinking that this was weird and doesn't look exactly like the game. They even do like a Donkey Kong shout out by turning that construction guy into a monkey or an ape or something. It's like
Yeah,
it kind of,
later on.
yeah, like
I
um
remember that part. I didn't quite get that far, but I do remember the
Oh,
monkey.
yeah, on the recent rewatch, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I
And
remember we were all laughing at that quite a lot.
yeah, it was a so bad it's good type of movie.
Oh,
I
for sure,
guess, yeah.
yeah.
And I think I brought this up to you when we met up in person a few months ago. How like how funny it was when like they got to the moment where the brothers suit up in their iconic suits, and during the screening, one of the people there was like, "Yes."
It's a superhero moment. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It is just such a strange film. I would have I don't know. It seems like the type of movie that I have a hard time picturing ever being successful in the minds of like anyone, because there's such a disparity between what the content of the film. I think we mentioned this already. There's such a disparity between the content of the film and um and the video game, right? It it feels like if you rename the characters, then it almost doesn't really resemble Mario at all, in many ways. Um,
Right. I'd argue that you'd also have to change the color of the iconic outfits
right,
they
sure,
get.
yeah. But
Um,
outside of like the very like very surface level stuff, and even then, like the names are completely different. Like I didn't realize until more recently that Dennis Hopper isn't playing Bowser. He's playing King Koopa. He's not Bowser. Bowser is the king that shows up at the end, played briefly by Lance Henriksen, which I did not remember at all. I did not remember him at all being in this film. But that's just such a bizarre change. And then Luigi and Mario both having Mario as their surname.
oh yeah, that
It's
originated
just
from this
such a
film, didn't
bizarre
it?
gag. Yeah, yeah, it's such a bizarre because it's like Mario Jumpman? Was it Mario? I don't know. What
Yeah,
do they
because
call him
I think
originally?
he was referred to as Jumpman in the Donkey Kong arcade game he first
Yeah.
appeared in. Yeah. Um, but yeah, that was something I remember being confused about as a kid, like King Koopa, and like, because in Super Mario Kart, there's one of the characters you can play as is called a Koopa Troopa,
Right.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always thought that was like the character's actual name, but I guess more recently realizing, oh, it's a trooper who is like of that species
It's like a
type
foot
thing.
soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Um,
like on the when we watched like 2 years ago, I was like, oh, okay, so I guess King Koopa is Bowser, but then you get Lance Henriksen as this character called the
yeah.
King. Um, well, he plays Daisy's father, doesn't he?
I
So,
think yeah, he's Daisy's father, but I was looking through the IMDb credits, and he's credited as King Bowser apparently,
oh,
which
really?
is really bizarre. Yeah. I wonder whether it's like that in the credits of the film.
Yeah, I'm
Because
like,
it's
look,
such a bizarre.
yeah, I'm like looking at the wiki, and he is named King Bowser in the final script, and um apparently this film had a novelization. I'm kind of surprised about that, but it also referred to him as King Bowser, and that's like so weird, especially when like you think about how it's always seemed like Bowser in the games like might have a thing for Peach, and like it's it's so weird like making him her dad in
Yeah,
this.
yeah, I guess, yeah. Even though it's Daisy and not Bowser, and not Peach in this case.
Oh wait, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But
It's like you would have thought. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense because there's the romantic stuff with Luigi, which I think conventionally in the games. I mean, following some logic, which I'm fairly certain just isn't there at all. Luigi usually pairs up with Daisy, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I haven't played enough Mario.
No, yeah, he does. Like,
But
yeah. But I think Bowser like also kidnapped Daisy in the game, so
yeah.
it's a weird thing. But yeah. Um, a thought that kind of occurred to me recently was that, the people behind this 1993 film are trying to make it more quote unquote realistic. Like,
Yeah.
trying to make like, because, Mario is very fantasy, and here they're trying to use sci-fi to justify some of that and like twist it so that it fits more with the sci-fi elements as opposed to justifying the game elements themselves fully.
Sure.
But I feel like in that way it's comparable to the thinking behind the Dark Knight trilogy,
Right.
which is totally like higher above in quality. Like at most I'd give the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Film like a 6 out of 10 if I'm being generous.
Yeah,
But
sure.
but yeah, just that thinking behind, oh, let's take this thing that might be more fantastical and make it more realistic. Like it's just weird how that can have different outcomes but still have a similar approach in that thinking.
Can I make another couple of comparisons?
Yeah.
Because there was a couple things I was reminded of rewatching it. First of all, it felt like as soon as you get into I don't think it's not called the Mushroom Kingdom, right? It's like Dino,
Yeah.
Dino something,
That,
Dino Hatton.
yeah. As
Okay, yeah,
opposed to Manhattan. Yeah.
yeah. It feels very like Terry Gilliam. Like it feels very like uh reminds me a lot of like Brazil in the kind of set design and I mean Bob Hoskins obviously also in Brazil playing an electrician this time. He's not a plumber. He's an electrician
Mm.
in his big red hat. So not a very different role from what he's playing here. But yeah, it really reminded me of that, which is a weird approach to take a game like Mario.
Yeah, and there's also like a faraway shot of like a tower in the movie I
Yeah,
remember, and it reminds me of the way some shots of Gotham City look in Batman
right.
Forever from 1995.
Yeah. Definitely that kind of like it's that era of blockbusters where they were getting a little bit sillier.
Yeah.
You've got the Joel Schumacher Batmans coming up in a little bit. You've got
Yeah, like this was a year after Batman
Bond.
Returns, so I guess that's a
Bond is going
cutoff.
silly at this point. I mean, what are we? It's maybe a couple years before GoldenEye, but even then, like GoldenEye is a ridiculous film. It just works in that case, and less so as the franchise progresses. Like it very much felt like in the '90s, the like blockbusters were getting more and more ridiculous. Arguably, you're kind of going in that direction right now with stuff like Fast and Furious and the superhero stuff. But I think the film that I think it's most interesting to compare to is um, the live action Scooby Doo's for me,
Oh yeah.
because I think that's another case of I was reading up about this film, and it seemed like it was mostly the directors who were husband and wife duo that were pushing the film very much towards this like gritty, like adult uh, focused audience, which really wasn't there for Mario at all at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, how old were the games? They must have been like
Yeah, like only like 10 years old, I
yeah,
think.
10
Yeah.
years old by this point. Like there's no one who would really like it makes more sense to do it now, but even then it's like it makes so much more sense to do it as a kids film as they did, and I think they did it probably in the best way they could have done.
Right, because I saw a video essay, and I'll link it in the show notes if I can find it, where
Yeah.
they mentioned that the script went through various revisions, and one of them
Yes.
actually looks more like the games, or it's like it looks very Alice in Wonderland, mushrooms and like the vibrant colors and stuff. But yeah, like as far as on-screen Mario stuff, there was like in like some animated stuff with live action segments. I actually watched a little bit of that recently, and it's like, this is interesting. So to go from that to this, it's like it's just so strange and bizarre.
Yeah, for sure. And the revisions were apparently going on during shooting to the
Oh
point where
yeah.
like actors wouldn't even bother to read the daily rewrites because they were just going to be changed in a bit. But I think it's an interesting comparison to the live action Scooby-Doo's, because I think that's another case where you've got um the kind of the people who are making it. I think particularly James Gunn, the James Gunn script was very much pushed along this like adult oriented, like his Scooby-Doo, but they're encountering real demons this time. It's not anything fake. I think that makes much more sense. So the studio obviously pushing against that and wanting to make it more family friendly, which again, like when you've got a franchise that's targeted originally at family audiences, it makes sense to make it a family film because you're gonna get a cast a wider net and get a larger audience for it. But I mean, Scooby Doo had been around since the late '60s, and
Yeah.
Mario had barely been around for a decade. Like, it made much more sense to be doing an adult take on a Scooby Doo film in live action than it does to be doing immediately an adult take on Mario in an era where, you know, a, a lot of adults don't know what Mario is or, what's going on.
Yeah, it'd be like doing an adult take on Blue's Clues in like
yeah,
2005, 2006 or something.
yeah, where that audience just doesn't exist. Like,
Yeah.
if you did that, like, I don't know, 30 years later, right? 30 years after a
Yeah.
franchise. Like,
Basically like around now. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've had like dark Winnie the Pooh films coming
Oh
out
yeah.
since the copyright, and even then, that feels like, no, this is not right. Um,
Oh no, I think I'm in the minority of being like the only one who thought that was funny. Cause
okay,
like
okay,
cause like it plays it straight, but because like it's not trying to be like overt comedy like other horror comedy movies. Like it feels like it's almost trying to be serious, but I feel like because it's Winnie the Pooh and he got Christopher Robin young stuff like Pooh, I never would have left you. Like
right.
I feel like the people behind it have got to know that like some of it is going to be funny, and I found moments like that to be just so absurdly
Sure.
hilarious.
I mean, my point is, you've got people in the '70s that grew up on Winnie the Pooh. Like,
Right.
it's again another one of those things where you just kind of know it. So it immediately makes more sense. I think if you, I would still maintain that you can't do a live action Mario like that and have it be successful. Like you couldn't do Mario gritty. It just doesn't play right. But yeah, that combined with the what seems like absolute production hell, especially from all of the accounts of the actors who seem to just absolutely hate being around,
Yeah.
and absolutely hate the directors. Um, yeah, it was one of those films that felt destined to absolutely flop.
Yeah. But that brings us to this other universe we found where it was a success and it got a sequel greenlit. So, yeah, we recently found a portal and met our other selves in like this universe where people evolved from dinosaurs. So, like over there, the movie resonated with people more because it felt like historical fiction and like they're like, whoa, like a universe where there's a Manhattan instead of a Dino Hatton, and we're sort of following that as like the protagonist. What a novel idea. Um so yeah, I guess we'll hand it over to ourselves from that Dino universe who will recap the sequel that came out over there.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, so I'm DinoSteven.
I'm DinoMax. Um, so we're going to talk about the sequel to the Super Mario Brothers film, which was a very big hit, very big hit.
Yeah,
Broke box office records.
Yeah, another exciting episode of Dino Delayed Replay. So, yeah, the first one broke records. I'd probably give it like a 9 out of 10 at least, you know?
Yeah. If I had any complaints, it was the Yoshi wasn't quite slimy enough.
Yeah, well, like they were close, but you know, it's those little nuances where it's like it doesn't look quite right. And and yeah, like also they could have maybe they went over budget, but there should have been more Goombas. Like those were looked so amazing
I
and so
had a lot of
incredible.
fun with the Goombas. Yeah, they're so like their little heads, they're tiny, they're very cute. They're very cute.
Yeah, for sure. So this sequel came out in 1996 for us, you know, around the time that they were ramping up for the Nintendo 64, so kind of riding on that wave. And that's why the movie begins with this prologue that says 64 million years ago. So a million years after the prologue from the first
Right.
film.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's really important to get this kind of context for a film, like um, to make sure that we're on the right page.
yeah,
To
they even have it
refreshers.
in, they even like showcase the new like three-dimensional graphics in this prologue. So yeah, what'd you think of that prologue and like what it showed for like the what we're getting ready for?
Well, I felt like it's absolutely vital exposition that we're getting there. That we're like it covers a lot of the ground that we have in the first Mario movie, just kind of catching us up to speed with the evolution that happened over the course of the past. I don't remember how long ago was it. It's 60, 60. No, I don't. I'm no good
Yes,
with dates.
64 million years ago.
64 million years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we're
like
capitalizing on
Nintendo
the
64.
yeah.
Nintendo 64 million years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's covering a lot of the same ground, but I think it's vital that there was a good few years between the movies, so it feels like a good way to ease us into this new Mario adventure.
Yeah. And this prologue also like it talks about how there were also like some dinosaurs in the past that you know survived the meteor and like
Right.
look like CGI of the time, you know, 90s CGI. So
Right.
in
It's
this
come a
movie,
long way since it's a little, you know, it's there's some polygons, but it definitely has that kind of retro video game look, which they were definitely going for with the Mario franchise.
yeah, so in various parts of this film we see like, some reptilian characters that look like those polygons. So at the time, this was state of the art, showcasing that kind of CGI. This was even before the Phantom Menace with the beloved Jar Jar Binks and the Gungans.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Those Star Wars prequels were very, very successful.
Yeah,
And to the point where, George Lucas had to just keep going, and he made 3 sequels as well. But I think I mean, okay, so what do you think about the focus shift here? We're getting to see much more of the kind of water areas and a lot more of the kind of the fish characters in from the Mario franchise. I'm thinking of like the sequence where they're like scuba diving underwater and they have those like really really long like um, what do you call them, like pipe things. They got like little pipes coming out of their mouth, and they look like the pipes from a video game. What do you think about that whole sequence?
yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice because this movie, once it gets back to the present, it sort of shows the brief adventure that Daisy went on before returning to the brothers and Daniela at the end of the first movie. So you get to see why she seems to have like some burns on like the bottom of her slacks or whatever, and it's because she was sort of
Yeah,
infiltrating this castle surrounded by lava, and discovers there that there's like more antagonists, and so that's why she comes back to the brothers, and it's like it's time for another adventure. But now, it's very artistic, beginning with fire and then focusing on water. They go scuba diving, and one of the antagonists in this is King Wart, the frog person from.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
King
what'd you think of the actor they got for King Wart?
Well, you know, I mean, Lawrence Fishburne was a very interesting choice. I mean,
Yeah,
his career was, you know, definitely kind of it was on the up during the early 90s, but he'd had a bit of a kind of lull by 96.
yeah, this was pre-Matrix, so I kind of feel like this film actually made his career, I'd argue.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, they did the makeup really well. He was almost like completely unrecognizable under all of that. They really puffed out like his cheeks so that they were like very kind of like frog-like. Yeah, no, it's a really. I think he did a. He's definitely got like the gravitas for a villain character like that. Not much to him. It's very kind of like Disney villain-esque. It's very kind of you it's very one-dimensional, but that's like what you needed in this film. You need a very like dislikable villain like King Wart.
Yeah, and that's not the only villain who's here, as we sort of get hints about with the castle. So one of the other villains in this is Wario, played by Dino DeVito.
Oh, I love Dino DeVito. He's so great in
Yeah,
this.
it's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently he was almost gonna play Mario in the first movie, so it's really fitting
Really?
that
I
they
can
have him
see that.
here.
I can see that. He's
Yeah, so
definitely kind of got the height. He's got the
yeah,
height. Um,
yeah. So in this movie, they explain that Wario is an alternate universe version of Mario, and he used to work at McDonald's, but they have like instead of the M, it's a W, so it's McDonald's, which
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, which
Yeah.
apparently has been used in various anime, according to my friend Keon, who's been on the
Right.
podcast
Right,
before.
because they can't use the McDonald's branding, so they have to kind of morph it. But it makes for a pretty funny gag in the movie. Um,
Yeah, because it's like
it definitely
that was
gave me a
an
laugh.
yeah, because it's like that was an alternate universe McDonald's, I guess. It's like
Right.
yeah.
Do you think it was
Um,
product placement, or it was just like a licensing thing?
well, so from what I read, they did that to not run into any copyright issues. But then
Okay.
after the movie came out, McDonald's was like, "Hey, we really like your movie. Can we do like a cross promotion Happy Meal type thing?"
Oh,
It's like,
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
you get that a lot. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like with Rick and Morty, the Nintendo give me free stuff thing, and ended up like the creators ended up with some Nintendo stuff from what I remember. Um,
Okay. Talking about effects, what did you think of like the dry bones that we had when Daisy was going to the lava castle? Like,
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they used CGI for these. It kind of reminded me of this like natural history museum VHS documentary I used to watch as a kid where it was about a skeleton. I think it was that museum. I could be mistaken, but yeah, I don't know. Do these effects hold up well these all these years later?
it's hard to say. Like, I like a lot of the practical effects that we have in the original. Um, like I said, the Yoshi really is a standout. Really stand out because it's so slimy and it's so real. But the CGI, it's 1996, right?
Right.
It's dated, but it's got that like I say, like that retro video game charm to it. So it doesn't feel out of place. Um, but
R-
yeah, definitely doesn't hold up to the original.
Right. And I do hear like some construction in the background, but that's not out of place given that construction is part of the Mario lore. So there you go.
Right, yeah. But, they're actually constructing another Mario movie back here.
Nice.
It's Super Mario Brothers 3, but it's not called that, I don't think. I think it's like a reboot where they just call it Mario Brothers. I don't know.
Yeah, they
The second film
simplify
didn't
the
do quite as
title.
well. They didn't get another sequel, but it's something that's held very dearly in the hearts of the people. So
Yeah,
it
like
it's
I heard
taken a
that
little while.
yeah, like I heard that for the new one, they even created a new studio for it like so I guess they're like really hoping it succeeds. They created Mario Studios and
Mario
I guess
Studios,
this
yeah,
yeah, I guess it's supposed to jumpstart a cinematic universe type movement
right. Jumpstart,
for
yeah.
that.
Nice one, Steven. You're always cracking puns, even if you don't mean to. The Yeah, no, it feels very much like a similar situation to the DC universe where you've got the animated stuff going on at the same time as the live action ones, and it feels like it's very much kept separate universes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Super Mario Brothers too. I'm so excited you had me on to talk about this.
Yeah, and I think the switch in effects is kind of comparable to the 1990s Mortal Kombat movies, where I think the second one relied more on CGI, but was perhaps
Yes,
less
yeah,
successful. Yeah.
yeah. I haven't seen the second one. I've only seen the first one, but it's definitely, I don't know. There was definitely quite a fair amount of CGI in the first one, I think, but
Right.
um, much more practical. You could definitely tell that like there's a point where that shift happened, right? The shift from practical to digital, and I think it was something that increasingly was going on throughout the 90s.
Yeah, definitely. So Wario, his plan basically is, he gets a hold of that evolution, a de-evolution technology we saw in the first film,
Right. Yeah.
and he wants to sort of do his own spin on it, and um, he wants to turn himself into like the perfect like alpha being type thing, and so
Yeah.
and so eventually later in the movie he's able to transform himself to look more tall and muscular, and it's at that point
Yeah.
where he's played by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I definitely get the impression that like Wario has this very um like he's got like this inferiority complex to Mario. Like he sees this bold, beautiful plumber and he thinks
Yeah,
I'm not good enough. So yeah, and then the switch to Arnold Schwarzenegger is very interesting because obviously Dino DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger played twins in the movie Twins, very very famously.
yeah, and they've both
So they
played
were good
Batman
friends.
villains. Yeah,
Yeah, and then they both played Batman villains in separate Batman movies. So yeah, it felt very fitting that Schwarzenegger would you know um, play an alternate version of Mr. DeVito, like a taller, um, more kind of muscular Dino.
yeah, and they each do the German accent that I guess Wario was known for a bit. I don't know if I'm not sure if I've ever heard him speak, but I like read that supposedly he's supposed to have like a German accent, so
Oh,
that's
okay,
what they
okay.
were riffing on here.
Well, I mean, with Arnie, it always feels very Austrian. Like it always, he doesn't really do accents too well.
Right.
You've seen him do his American, and it doesn't work at all. But um, Dino sounds okay. There's a few points where it kind of cracks, but um, you know, apparently he would stay in the accent offset as well.
Oh yeah, that method acting.
Bob Hoskins, he would method act the whole time because it was just such a hard accent to get into. Um, but obviously, like Arnie just sticks with his classic Austrian accent because like it doesn't sound too different to the German voice that he's meant to have, but you can definitely tell that it's slightly off.
So Daniela is also with Mario, Luigi, and Daisy on this adventure,
Right.
and I feel like they were pretty much doubling down on Daniela being this continuity's version of Peach.
Right.
They
Yeah.
even like, because when they go to the castle, she finds a wardrobe and she finds like the dress that looks vaguely like something Peach would wear, but not quite as vibrant. What'd you think of that choice?
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting choice. I don't. It feels a bit bizarre because she's not a character from the games. But I think overall it works for what they're doing. It is a slightly different take um, on the Mario franchise. It is meant to be a little bit darker and grittier, so it makes sense that the Peach in this universe is you know a little bit more suited to the world building.
Yeah, definitely. Um, the like they never specify how old Mario is in this, but he does look visibly older than her, and I think the age difference always felt kind of weird to me, whereas with Luigi and Daisy, it doesn't feel as weird here.
Yeah, it's definitely like a product of the era, I would say. Um, a lot of these action movies have older men than the women are. But I think it was nice that she was featured a little bit more in this film than she was in the last one. It really does feel like they have more of a focus on the women in Mario than the first film does.
Yeah, and I think at the time, some audiences were kind of being stupid and not appreciating that. They're like, "Oh, I paid to see Mario Brothers. What's with all this?"
Right.
But like, you already got a movie where it features them front and center. Like, why not give Daisy and Daniela more to do?
And I think that's part of the reason why this film wasn't quite as successful as the 1993 film.
Right? People weren't quite as
Yeah,
enlightened yet.
they weren't quite as invested. Even though you have like big names like Lawrence Fishburne and Dino DeVito and um, Arnold Schwarzenegger playing villains, uh, it just it something felt off about, I think, the way that it was paced maybe didn't quite work as well.
Yeah. One aspect where I think they were really reaching was, in the first movie, Daisy's dad, the king, played by Lance Henriksen, in the outside materials, like the novelization and whatnot, he's referred to as King Bowser. And so
Right.
in this sequel, he kind of wants to get rid of Luigi because he's like, "Oh, I don't want you with my daughter," and that's kind of turns him into a villain in a way in this one,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
like a huge 180 just 3 weeks after the first one took place.
Right. But he's also not like evil. He's just he just doesn't um he's just, ordering his minions to get in the way of that relationship. It's it's very much just, and they make up by the end. It's, King Bowser sees that Luigi is right for his daughter, and there's that whole there's a very nice scene where he gives Luigi his permission to marry her, which is what Luigi wanted the whole time. And it
Yeah.
ends with that very nice scene, the wedding scene between Luigi and Daisy.
Yeah, and it's just a few weeks after they first met each other.
Yeah, it feels it's a very sudden thing, but it's one of those continuity things which I, I'm I don't think they really thought about it too much.
Yeah, another, I guess, sort of Easter egg is that one of the other actors considered for Mario for the first film was Bruno Kirby. And
Oh yeah, Bruno Kirby. Yeah.
yeah, and for this sequel, they actually got him in a role where like he's playing him like himself, but like a Dino Hatton version of himself. And so when Mario and Luigi see him, they're like, "Hey, isn't that Bruno Kirby?" And
Right.
uh, he's like instead of an actor, he's like at a hot dog eating contest, and he just like inhales it all. And basically, this movie shows that like in this continuity, he's Kirby, the Nintendo character.
Yeah. That did seem a bit strange. It it's weird to see other Nintendo characters show up in a Mario film. I wasn't the biggest fan of that scene, but it's a funny joke. It's a funny gag in the moment.
Yeah, and they do like bring it back toward the end when he like exhales like all the hot dogs at Wario and King Wart, but it also
Right.
looks very like digested, and and slimy, and so
Yeah, I like the effects in that part. That really works for me, especially because they chose to go practical with it.
yeah,
With that like very like visceral, like physical slime that's like um, you know, that's going all over Wario. But I don't know. It very much feels like it comes out of nowhere.
yeah,
He's not really in most of the movie, and then he just kind of shows up at the end. He's like, I'm gonna, to help out Mario, which just I don't know. It didn't feel well enough developed that it was justified in the script.
right. I also thought it was odd that they made the decision to Wario in this in the final battle decides, you know what, King Wart, let's combine our forces, and he uses or I guess he says it with a German accent, let's
Yeah,
combine our forces. I don't know if I did
yeah,
that well, and I don't want to offend people, but um, he uses the technology to combine himself and King Wart into a big muscular frog being that refers to
yeah.
himself as King Wartio. So, what'd you think of that?
I liked it. I thought Lawrence Fishburne obviously, he changes his performance a little bit. They give his voice more of that like boom to it. It's very like echoey and very deep. And so I thought that really suited it. The only thing I think the suit looks weird. It looks like a guy in stilts who's just been like and for that I would have preferred some like CGI effects, like how they do like the Hulk or something. That would have looked a lot better than it looked like paper mache, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work that well for me. But it was cool when Mario he does the jump. He does the jump. It's like a reference to the classic video game where he jumps onto King Wart and it all comes out. It's like he was filled with water and he's like leaking out from all the sides. I thought that was a wonderful touch. I thought that really worked for me.
Yeah, it looks very much like stepping on a water balloon.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, just all kind of bursting out, and then there was a little frog left behind that like hops out from the wreckage. Yeah, big
Yeah.
fan of that part.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting how throughout the movie, the Mario Brothers and Daisy and Daniela, they have like these weapons that they use against their foes. Like they have these giant, like goofy looking hammers, and they have these big pennies that are like the size of plates, and so they throw them like frisbees. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, what'd you think of
that
all
was a
the
real
combat in this?
that was a really creative way to throw it back to the Mario games without doing it exactly the way that um I really love. There's this one part where uh, Daisy throws one of the coins, and it beheads a Goomba, and I was thinking, wow, this is surprisingly violent for
Yeah.
a PG-13 film. Like it, I don't know. I think they must have had a little bit of trouble with the ratings board. I mean, there's no blood or anything. It's just very you get to see the head kind of roll back.
Yeah, there's even a scene where they go down a giant slide, and they go so fast that they like, I think Luigi is in front, and he flies out and uh like feet first just sort of goes through one of the Goomba in the torso, like creating a
Yeah,
cartoonish looking hole, and it's like
right.
there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
some
yeah.
goo spilling out, and it was like,
That
wow.
felt a little bit over the top. Yeah. But the Goombas are really top of the game on this one. I almost didn't want to see him killed.
Yeah. And like there was also like some oil rig stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a
Well,
bit?
I mean that's what happens after the underwater sequence where they're chased by Lawrence Fishburne's King. Oh, sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now.
King Wart.
They're chased by King Wart through the ocean, and they end up taking refuge on an oil rig. Um, yeah, not it's not like loads that happens there. They just kind of camp out there. Um, they start a fire, but it feels like a very much fits in with that like aesthetic from the first film. Like this is, if that's kind of the aesthetic of the Dino Hatton in the
Yeah.
original.
Kind of like surface level steampunk, you might say.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. So it feels very fitting that that's what the oceans look like. It's like got all these structures that are very mechanical and very industrial.
At the end, after they defeat Wario and Wart, um, they're like, the brothers are like, you know what? We're really cleaning up shop here. We should make this our Mario land. So that was like a kind of a silly shout out to one of the things in the games.
Yeah. They start their own Mario Land, and so they are now the kings of Mario Land. Which, yeah, it was a nice little reference to the those video games.
Yeah, they even turn it into an amusement park. And you know, with a slide similar to the one from earlier, and like all these
Yeah.
roller coasters and
Well, I
stuff.
mean, as they were going down it, Luigi was talking about how fun the slide was, and how he was like, we should get a slide back home like this, Mario. He's very excited about the slide. So I think that was Luigi's inclusion.
Yeah, and this amusement park looks more like the games. Like it's got like giant, vibrant mushroom looking things. Like they're not real, but they're like um they're kind of like that teapot type ride where it's
Yeah.
like a spinning thing and it's like
Yeah.
it's
Gotcha.
kind of funny how like this amusement park looks the most like the games than the
Yeah,
rest of the movies.
yeah. I I kind of I think it was refreshing to see something that was more accurate to the games. Even though the way that they deviated in the first film worked so well.
I also forgot to mention Yoshi. Like throughout this movie, he's like
Well, of course.
eating a lot of Goomba heads. Like they cut away before we see him biting their
Yeah.
heads off, but
Yeah,
it's
the
like
only
so
part we
weird.
see the Goomba head coming off is with the coin, but I like Yoshi really gets to have much more action in this film, which I felt was um, very good. He's also eaten some of the fruits from the trees, which I mean that was a very interesting interpretation of the like Yoshi fruits. What did you think of that part?
Kind of smaller than one would think, you know?
Right. I mean, I really liked how they were like glowing, and they had all those patterns on them. But obviously, it's got to fit in the Yoshi's mouth, right?
Yeah.
You got to fit it all in one. So I get why they chose to go with a smaller size.
Speaking of eating, so at the end, you know, they've got the amusement park and they also eat at a restaurant called Velocigarden, which very much looks like Olive Garden. And yeah, they're just sort of like reminiscing about all the adventures they've had in just the last little while. Like, what'd you think of this scene at the end?
Yeah, I mean that was really nice. You know, I mean the most confusing part about that is why Luigi and Daisy decided to have their wedding reception in an Olive Garden. I wasn't, you know, I
Yeah,
wasn't. I was a little bit confused by that. It seemed a bit of a weird choice, but also it's kind of a funny gag, you know, that they're going out to Olive Garden for such a
yeah.
special occasion. Um,
And I mean, there
but
is Italian food, so that's a little tie-in,
yeah,
I guess.
it fit very well with the Mario characters because they're both, you know, we know that they're both Italian and they're both plumbers.
Yeah, and Olive Garden sometimes needs plumbing, I assume. So, you know.
I think so. And right at the end you have the line from the waiter who's like he's like shouting about this plumbing emergency, and then Mario goes, they both, Mario and Luigi, they both stand up at the same time with their plumbing gear, and they're like, we can fix it.
Yeah, they're like, here we go, and then end credits.
I think they thought that there was going to be another installment to the franchise,
Yeah, just about plumbing.
which you know we're only just about to get recently.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I guess we could go into final thoughts and score out of 10 for this one. So, what are your final thoughts on Super Mario Brothers 2, and what's your score out of 10 and your unit of measurement for that score?
Um, so I'm I'm a big fan of this movie. I think it's a underrated classic. I don't think it's quite on the level of the original, but it was definitely kind of, it was following in the footsteps of greatness, really. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of like really new, like fresh things that this movie introduces that really hold the Mario franchise together. So I'm gonna go with an 8 out of 10, um, and that's I'm gonna eight Yoshis, eight Yoshi saws out of 10.
Nice. Yeah. I think I might go a little lower for this. I think this one was maybe a 7.5 out of 10 plate-sized pennies. Like
It
it's
says
somewhat
pennies.
yeah, it's somewhat enjoyable, but I think we're in agreement that it had big shoes to fill after the first
Yeah,
movie and didn't quite
yeah.
reach those heights. So
And Joel Schumacher really, you know, he brought a lot to the franchise, but it's
yeah,
not it's not quite, he wasn't quite the right fit for it.
right. And you know, the end credits song, Seal's Kiss from a Rose, what was a nice touch, like a nice song at the end of it all. But overall,
It didn't really fit after the, you know, it's ending on a, it's ending on this like very silly like sequel bait line, and then
yeah,
that didn't work for me.
yeah,
It's a nice song, but it didn't fit the tone really.
yeah, and he'd already used it in Batman Forever. I kind of wonder
Yeah,
if maybe him like trying to squeeze in so much time to do this movie between Batman Forever and Batman and Robin sort of
right. Yeah, because
was a
he was
detriment.
right, like hot off the heels of Batman Forever when he was putting this together. Like a, you know, that film was obviously a very big hit. Um, so I get why they chose him to do it, because the Mario franchise, obviously the highest grossing film of all time. But it didn't quite fit the material.
I guess that's it for us, and I think our other selves from the delayed replay universe have like the same respective scores that we just said, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess we'll cut back to them and see what they would score this one. So, without further delay, back to delayed replay. All right, so now we're back. So Max, after seeing their version, or I guess the only version of Super Mario Brothers 2, what would you rate that film from that Dino universe?
That's absolutely insane. I have no idea, like what the hell was any of that really? I mean, they didn't even describe it in a way that was particularly cohesive.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah, and I mean watching it wasn't very cohesive either.
no, for sure. I would have to say what, like maybe five? I don't know. I'm just judging it based off the original film, which I don't think is very good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'll have uh, five slimy Goombas out of 10.
Yeah, I think I might actually go a bit lower. Like, I think, you know, I agree that it's inferior to the first movie, which well, I said earlier I'd give a 6. But yeah, like, I think it's a 4.5 out of 10. What do I want to use? Uh, Weird fathers wanting to eliminate their daughter's love interest and then reconciling with them at the end.
Yeah,
So, yeah, like there were some silly bits that were kind of entertaining, but I feel like it didn't have quite the bad good charm that the first movie had. It had a bit more bad, I think.
for sure, yeah.
All right, so I guess that'll do it. Thanks for joining me, Max. Is there any links or social media from yourself that you'd like to plug?
Um, yeah, I guess I am making art and stuff at Nockstar Owl on Instagram, and I've got like animations, M Silver Productions on YouTube. So check those out if you've got a chance. Thanks for having me, Stephen. This has been a lot of fun talking to you about Mario and also listening to our alternate selves talk about uh, their their Mario franchise.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm very happy to have you on. And as for my plugs, I'll put them in the edit later on as I normally do.
All right, you can follow me at Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook, StevenShinder.com for info on my book, Lemons on My Grain. More info to come on the next book, Trespassing the Visages, which I'm trying to get out in the summer. You can check out Yesshift, a vlog/podcast I do with my dad about the band Yes. Episode 100 should be up when this is out. And you can also, it's we've done more than 100, but it's complicated. We explain it on the show. Check out my Letterboxd profile, my Goodreads profile. Again, all those will be in the show notes. And you can also email Delayed Replay via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on dinosaurs, I guess. And we actually have an email from Oliver Titcomb. So, subject line says 2023 WGA strike. So he says, Dear Delayed Replay Stephen, in our universe, members of the Writers Guild of America went on strike starting the 2nd of May 2023. As a result, the films Blade and Community the Community movie have been delayed, along with lots of television. If it continues, this could impact other films as well. I assume that the strike didn't occur in your universe and that the Community movie will come out on time. Blade is already out where you are. If that's the case, you have more content to work with. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Oliver Titcomb from that other universe where the films you reviewed got delayed. So, that's an interesting question.
There was a strike over here like 3 years ago, but it was very quick and people came to a compromise. But it sounds like in your universe, maybe it's different. Funny that you mentioned Blade and the Community movie. In the Community show, there's a character named Blade, and it makes the characters want to watch Blade. But anyway, over here, the Community movie I think starts filming in June, and if I were to compare that to the production schedule of another Peacock movie from a couple years ago, Psych 2, or no, it was Psych 3, I think it was. This is Gus, I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think that one got filmed in the summer and then it got released in November. So I assume that there would be a similar release schedule for this Community movie. So maybe we'll have an episode on that toward the end of this year, or maybe early beginning of next year, depending on the schedule. But yeah, that would be an interesting one to recap. I love Community and I've been waiting for the movie for so long. It's such a great show and a great writing and also great comfort show. But yeah, thanks for emailing the podcast, Oliver. Very much appreciated. And regarding earlier in the episode when DinoSteven mentioned a skeleton mini documentary by the Natural History Museum, like a VHS series by them. When I heard that, I was thinking maybe he meant like Eyewitness. They made a mini VHS documentary about skeletons, at least over here where I am. But and no, apparently in that Dino universe, it's Natural History Museum that made something like that. So just another difference between the universes. Just like how the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures over there has props from the first Super Mario Brothers movie on display because of how well revered it is. Also, I feel like it's possible I may have accidentally let an S bomb, yeah, sugar honey iced tea, slip through while editing this. Like, I vaguely remember maybe someone said it, and I don't remember if I heard it while editing and then edited it out. So if it slipped past, I apologize. I did not have a plumber to take care of that. Haha, do you get it? But yeah, back to the end of the episode. And next episode, 2 weeks from after this goes out, the next episode will be on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 2. So,
Ooh,
yeah, some more multiverse stuff.
very nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, that should be an interesting one. So yeah, that'll do it. And without further delay, have a good day.